All right, I'm Hilda Man. I'm a speech and language pathologist here at Children's Health Council. And this is Christina Cook, call her Tina, and she's a SLP intern with us this semester. So tonight we're going to talk to you about building social skills for your child with autism. Welcome to CHC, Children's Health Council. Just going to start off with a little bit of information about Children's Health Council. We are a community-based nonprofit organization. We help children, teens, and young adults reach their promise and potential. We've been here since 1953, quite a long time. We want kids, teens, and young adults to learn how to learn, develop grit and resilience, realize their dreams, stop hurting, make friends, feel better, and have a brighter future. So about CHC, our vision is we believe in the promise and potential of every child, teen, and young adult. Our mission is to remove barriers to learning, helping children and teens become resilient, happy, and successful at home, at school, and in life. Our quest is that we strive to remove social, emotional, and learning barriers for kids and families, regardless of language, location, or ability to pay. We believe that to have a resilient, happy, and a successful child, teen, or young adult, we have to integrate the elements of effective learning, which are academic skills, knowing how to learn, mental health and wellness, and physical development. Our areas here at CHC of excellence include ADHD, learning differences, anxiety and depression, and autism. And here, in case you guys don't know, we have 4 divisions. We have the clinical services, where we do evaluations, therapy, consultations. We have an intensive outpatient program. Our clinics are in Palo Alto, here, Ravenswood, and South Bay. We also have community connections, which are workshops and classes, conferences. Just this past weekend, there was EdRev over at AT&T Park. How many of you went? Nice. It's a great event. Go next year. We also have SAFE and support groups, partnerships, volunteer programs, and online resources. We have 2 schools on site. Sand Hill School is one. It's an independent day school with strengths-based learning for kids that are from 1st grade to 8th grade. And these kids have dyslexia and learning differences. We also have another school on site called Esther B. Clark. We call it ABC. And it's a therapeutic day school serving students with emotional and behavioral challenges from over 40 districts in our community. And we have 2 campuses, one here in Palo Alto and the other one in San Jose. A lot of people always ask, oh, are they housed in the same building? They are. And people come here and they wonder where it is, and it's just, it's here in this building. These 2 schools are. All right. And CHC is LGBT safe. All right. Here's to the reason why you guys are here, to learn about social skills for your kids. We're not going to talk about autism, what it is, how to diagnose, or the symptoms. We're not going to talk about what social thinking is. We're here to talk about things that you guys can do as parents of kids with autism, how you guys can take some skills home, to implement tomorrow. All right, that's my goal. I hope it's your goal too. All right. So let's start with a video. Many of you are familiar with Sheldon Cooper in The Big Bang Theory. A lot of people suspect that he had Asperger's syndrome, which is a high functioning type of autism, which, the DSM doesn't have that diagnosis anymore, but many of us in the field love that diagnosis and still kind of hang on to it, because there are a lot of kids that present a lot like Sheldon. If we just say, oh, this kid has autism, and you don't, it's a wide range. You don't know what that really means. But if we say Asperger, then you kind of know it's kind of like a Sheldon Cooper. All right. So anyway, let's take a look at this video of Sheldon Cooper.
Good, you're just in time. I believe I've isolated the algorithm from making friends. Sheldon, there is no algorithm for making friends.
Hear him out. If he's really onto something, we could open a booth at Comic-Con, make a fortune.
See, my initial approach to Kripke had the same deficiencies as those that plagued Stu the Cockatoo when he was new at the zoo.
Stu the Cockatoo?
Yes, he's new at the zoo.
It's a terrific book. I've distilled its essence into a simple flowchart that will guide me through the process.
Have you thought about putting him in a crate while you're out of the apartment?
Hello, Kripke. Yeah, Sheldon Cooper here. It occurred to me that you hadn't returned any of my calls because I hadn't offered any concrete suggestions for pursuing our friendship. Yeah, perhaps the two of us might share a meal together. Yeah, I see. Well, then perhaps you'd have time for a hot beverage. Popular choices include tea, coffee, cocoa. I see. No, wait, don't hang up yet. But what about a recreational activity? I bet we share some common interests. You tell me an interest of yours. Really? On actual horses? Tell me another interest of yours. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have no desire to get in the water till I absolutely have to. Tell me another interest of yours.
Uh-oh, he's stuck in an infinite loop.
I can fix it.
It's interesting, but isn't ventriloquism by definition a solo activity? Yeah. Tell me another interest of yours. Is there any chance you like monkeys? Yeah, what is wrong with you? Everybody likes monkeys. Hang on, Kripke. A loop counter and an escape to the least objectionable activity. Howard, that's brilliant. I'm surprised you saw that.
Gee, why can't Sheldon make friends?
All right, Kripke, that last interest strikes me as the least objectionable, and I would like to propose that we do that together. Tomorrow. Yes, I'll pay. All right, goodbye. All right. Time to learn rock climbing.
All right, so does your child with autism have trouble making friends? You know, making friends for most of us was something very natural. We weren't taught how to make friends, but our kids with autism, many of them need to be taught. They need something like an algorithm because it doesn't come naturally for them. They require scaffolding, our kids, for everything social. And we're going to have to provide it for them. So our kids really have difficulty navigating the social world. And being social doesn't just mean being with people and interacting. You could be alone, and that's social, because if you're sitting alone in the park and there are people around and you're being unexpected, then you're behaving unexpectedly and you're not being, you know, socially appropriate. So social doesn't just mean making friends, but that's what a lot of us equate it to be. Autism is considered a spectrum disorder. That means that you have a wide range of functioning with these kids. According to Michelle Garcia-Winter, she's the founder of Social Thinking, she says that there are different levels of social functioning, starting with what she calls the significantly challenged social communicator. That's the kid that just really has a lot of difficulty, needs a lot of scaffolding. Then you have some that are nuance challenged, where they appear to be fine, but then every so often they do things and you just go, what was that? Why is he having difficulty? It's because they're nuanced. Maybe they know the rules of how to be with people, but then in real time, sometimes they just can't integrate those skills to apply into real situations. And then sometimes we have what you call a resistant social communicator, somebody who just really doesn't care. And if you say, well, what do you think, you know, somebody would think about you doing that? Well, I really don't care. And those people are really hard to get to. But you know, those are the different levels of social communicators. So I want to talk about social communication disorders are really hard for the majority of people to understand. Other disabilities such as blindness You know, we can close our eyes and kind of walk around and trip and go, oh, okay, I have an idea what being blind is like. Or we could cover our ears, wear noise-canceling headphones, and we can't hear, and then we go, okay, I can kind of experience what it feels like to be deaf. But we really don't understand social blindness. Like, why doesn't our child with autism get these things that come so naturally to the rest of us? You know, why is it that they can't understand other people's perspectives, why they can't carry on a conversation? It's really hard. And because it wasn't hard for us, because we weren't taught specifically how to make friends and how to be social in school the way we were taught the 3 R's. Tina asked me what the 3 R's are. She's young. So for those of you who are young and don't know what the 3 R's is, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that's what they used to call, you know, what we learned in school. And social thinking and social skills is not a subject that we are taught in school. And so if we weren't taught that, we don't know how to start to teach our child with autism. We don't know. So today, again, I'm going to try to give you some strategies and some techniques that you can take home and implement with your child. So I have some parents that say to me, well, you know what? I didn't have lots of friends, and Johnny doesn't have friends, and it doesn't really matter to us. We're not real social people, so I don't really care that he can't make friends. But guess what? Social thinking and social skills are now in the Common Core. Okay, meaning you have to be able to infer other people's feelings and their motivations within literature. You have to be able to engage in turn-taking when you're working with other students in your class, doing project-based learning. All of that is now in the Common Core. Let's take a look at a few specific ones. For kindergarten, okay, listening and taking turns about the topics and texts under discussion. All right, so do your kids have difficulty staying on topic and talking about that one topic, or do they go off and talk about their own topics? Okay, this is something required in kindergarten. Also in kindergarten, they're required to continue a conversation through multiple exchanges, meaning taking turns and having multiple turns on the same topic. Sometimes not of their own choosing, a topic that might be of someone else's interest. In 3rd grade, they have to engage effectively in a range of collaborative discussions. That means working with other students, collaborating, doing some negotiating, doing some compromising. Okay, a lot of kids on the autism spectrum can't do that. And then in 6th grade, they have to pose and respond to specific questions with elaboration and detail. Okay, a lot of the kids on the autism spectrum can't do that. They can't elaborate. They can't give proper detail. They give spotty details because they can't take perspective. They think that you know what they know. They can't put themselves in your shoes to think like, oh, maybe mom doesn't really know all that I know, so maybe I have to kind of back up and give some background information. Maybe I have to, you know, give more elaboration, more details. It's hard for them to take perspective and do this kind of stuff. So if Common Core is expecting our kids to do this kind of stuff, then we really have to help them, all right? So they need our help. What can we do? I'm going to turn the mic over to Tina. She's going to talk a little bit about some things that you guys can do.
So a great first resource for your child is going to be speech therapy, speech and language therapy. You can seek out a speech therapist in your community, whether it be through your public school system, a private clinic, or through the hospitals. Speech therapists are everywhere. You can find them. We work in either one-on-one direct teachings settings or in group therapy. So typically for kids on the spectrum, we want to start in a one-on-one setting to really hone in on their skills, give them a strong foundation in that direct teaching scenario, and then build their confidence so they can transition into a group setting. So we really want them to learn those foundational skills before they can carry over into new environments. So now that we've discussed what speech pathologists can do, and other professionals. We're going to talk a little bit more about what you can do today to help your child. All right, so social skills and social thinking groups are great resources in your community. You can get your child involved in a social group through school or outside of school. And these just help for carryover of skills. So we want your child to be practicing in the clinic or in the therapy room and outside of the therapy room. So the more environments, the better. In a school setting, this might look like a game club or a friendship group or a lunch bunch. We facilitate a couple lunch bunches here, just really getting your child around other peers so that they can practice their skills. Outside of school, there's social groups available for different themes, different interests your child might have, whether that be gaming, equestrian, cooking, drama, whatever your child's interest is, find a group, get them involved in their community and around, other peers. So at home, the most important thing you can do for your child is model expected behaviors. So one of the techniques we use is teaching that eyes have thoughts. And this is something that, we might not think about as adults, but it comes pretty easily to us. So what this looks like is, if I'm teaching a child that eyes have thoughts, I might hold up a pointer to my eyes and say, what am I looking at? What are my eyes telling you that I am looking at? And maybe it's a purse or someone in the front row. And so that's what I'm thinking about. My eyes have thoughts. So if I'm looking there, then that's a clue to tell you what I'm thinking about. So going along with that, you can use thought bubbles. And these are a great resource for you to write down what might be in your thoughts, what based on what you're looking at or what's around you, what might be in your thought bubble. So for the example of if I'm looking at her purse and I think, I write down the purse or write down, someone's face that pops in that is across the room that you're looking at. So really teaching them that, your eyes have thoughts and that might be what's in your thought bubble. Sometimes we have thoughts that should stay in our thought bubble. We don't always want to say whatever's on our mind. And, encouraging them that, I see that you're looking at me. Your eyes are telling me that you're thinking about me. You're listening. You're paying attention. So really great job with that and just using those reinforcers with your kids. We also want to talk about, so Hilda mentioned this before, but perspective taking is pretty hard for kids on the spectrum. One way you can model this with your kids is, take them to a park or to the mall and have them, think about what might be in their thought bubble. If you buy them ice cream, it's their favorite type of ice cream, it's chocolate, then, what's going to be in their thought bubble? Maybe it's a big fat smiley face and, happy thoughts. So have them think about what might be in their thought bubble versus someone else. Maybe, someone's mom didn't let them have ice cream, or, a kid on the playground tripped and fell and hurt their knee. So think about, have your kid model for your kid what might be in their thought bubble versus another child's thought bubble, and have them, practice that perspective taking. Okay. We also use talking pieces, or we like to call them hot potatoes, for turn taking. So I'm going to have Hilda model with me. So if we're talking, we're having a conversation, you might do this with your child each day and just say, okay, this is the hot potato, and I'm going to hold it for a little bit and talk. But after a little bit, it gets hot, and we need to pass it over. We need to throw it, and then it's going to get hot in her hand, so she needs to throw it back to me. So just really making it a visual reminder that you gotta pass it off. You gotta use turn taking skills and talk through it with your child. If one person was holding the potato or holding the talking piece the whole time, maybe that wasn't wasn't very good turn taking. But if both of you were passing it back and forth and passing it off when it was starting to get hot, then that is a good form of turn taking. Okay. And social scripts are another tool you can use, and this is just a great way to model, to provide language for your child based on a certain social situation. Hilda's going to go into this in a little more detail later on, but social scripts are a great way to have your child put themselves into a social situation, think about language that would be expected in that situation. And as we've said, we really want to use explicit teaching skills. This is really important for kids on the spectrum so that they, can understand in the way that their minds think, the way that, they need these skills taught to them. So one of the great ways to do this is the traffic lights of conversation, which was thought up by our very own Hilda Man. It's a great resource for your child to talk about social skills and rules in conversation. These help us navigate social rules, just like we navigate, outside on the freeway when we're going to work. So first off, I'm going to talk about red lights. Red lights, I'm sure some of you have talked to people where they just constantly give you red lights. And they signal to you to, end the conversation, I need to go, or I don't want to hear anymore, it's a red light. So this might look like someone turning away, someone on their cell phone when you're talking to them, texting, or, interrupting, providing off-topic comments or questions. So those are all red lights. Another example would be falling intonation. This is kind of a more subtle one, but if someone says, oh, does that signal to you to keep talking, or is that a red light? That's more of a red light, right? So instead of engaging you more and saying, oh, I wanna learn more. So that would be a green light. So I'm thankful for those of you who are looking at me, you're giving me those green lights, nodding your head, so that, someone that you're talking to that's giving you green lights cues you into keep going, I want to hear more, I'm interested in what you're saying. So those are green lights, and this looks like, as I said, just people looking at the speaker, or nodding or smiling, and providing on-topic questions, and just cueing the speaker in to, I want to hear more, I'm keeping this conversation going. All right. So without green lights, it might be cut short, the conversation. You want to encourage your child to keep going with it. Provide some green lights to the person you're talking with so they can tell you more. All right, now I guess you're probably all wondering what yellow lights are. So yellow lights are cues to the speaker that you're going to change topics. It's a warning. It's, I'm taking a different route, but it's still in the same direction, but I'm about to change the subject. So an example of this would be, so, or by the way, or that reminds me of. Those are all examples of yellow lights that cue the person you're talking with into the fact that you're about to change topics. So without yellow lights, the conversation might be pretty choppy, unclear. So we really want to teach children on the spectrum that yellow lights are important too. So another thing we like to talk about with kids on the spectrum is throwing it back in conversation. So this is as simple as asking the same question to the person you're talking to. So if I ask you, how was your weekend? You're gonna say something like, oh, mine was good, how was yours? So asking the same question back so that you can keep the conversation going and, be expected in conversation. But we can't just do the throwing it back, asking the same question the whole time. We need to also provide free information. So what this might look like is if I ask you, how was your weekend? And you say, it was good, I went to Tahoe. And then I ask you another question about how your trip was in Tahoe, or, how are the kids, how are this? And I'm the only one asking the questions. I'm the only one providing the green lights. Then it becomes more of an interview than a conversation. So you want to provide as much, free information as possible, or free information that's appropriate. So just teaching, your child that free information helps the conversation flow. And if someone asks you how your weekend is, give them some free information. Tell them what you did. Tell them who you hung out with. So just providing more free information. So another great tool you can use is Michelle Garcia Winner's social behavior mapping. There's a book up here you can take a look at. It's online for purchase if you go through the Social Thinking website. There's also, she provides some social behavior maps, which I'll talk about in a second. But these are it's a really great tool to just map out social situations for your child from beginning to end and talk about whether their behavior was more expected or more unexpected. So this is an example of a social behavior map, and it starts with mapping out what the situation was, what the behavior was, what happened. So let's say your child, makes an inappropriate comment. They let the thought that was in their thought bubble leak out, and when they should have kept it in. So talking that through with them, saying, okay, if the behavior was that you let that inappropriate comment leak out, what happened? How did people feel about it? The surrounding people that were in that environment, how did it make them feel? And then you talk about what was the resulting action? How did they act around you after that? Was it more negative or more positive? And then as a result, how did your child feel about it? What was their resulting, emotions, or how did they feel after all that played out? And you go through, map out the unexpected side, and then you can turn it around, and right there is the expected side. So mapping out what might be, what might have been a more appropriate behavior in that situation. So maybe instead of letting that thought leak out, hold it in. It's really hard sometimes, but we all have to hold in our thoughts if they're, unexpected in that situation. And then going through the map. So there's some great examples in this book, lots of different situations you can model for your child. And the goal is just to help them become, to help them become social thinkers. We all do this every day, but they need that explicit instruction. So just going through those situations with them to help them become proficient in every social situation they find themselves in. So now I'm going to pass it off to Hilda again to talk about non-literal language and some more resources for you.
The behavior maps and some of the other things that we're talking about, like eyes have thoughts, that's teaching your child to think socially. We're not really teaching rules or skills per se, because every situation is different. So if we teach them how to think, it's kind of like teaching them how to fish, so that they can carry over those skills in all the different situations that they encounter. So social thinking, like saying eyes have thoughts as opposed to eye contact. Back in the day we used to say, look at me, you have to make eye contact, all right? And the kids going like, eye contact, okay. But they don't really understand why. And so if you explain that eyes have thoughts, and if you look at me while I'm talking to you, then it means that you're listening to me, you're thinking about what I'm saying, so I'm gonna keep talking, and that's a green light. But if they don't understand the thinking behind it, then it's gonna be really hard and they're gonna be really rigid. So the new thing that speech pathologists and other people that work with social thinking are gravitating towards is talking about social thinking. And so the social behavior mapping is really good for that too, to teach the kids how to think, how to reason out what happened in a certain situation so that they can then carry over these skills in other situations. All right. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is non-literal language. Non-literal language is, language that's not literal. For example, jokes, riddles, idioms, figures of speech. For us, again, we get these things and we understand if someone's being sarcastic, and we laugh. But with the kids on the autism spectrum, it's really hard for them. They don't understand jokes. And they'll be like this guy in the cartoon, I don't get it. I love Sheldon Cooper. He's a really great example of our kids and their difficulties. So here's just an example of him not getting jokes.
So I read a study that says a man with a dog is 3 times more likely to get a woman's phone number.
Is it true even when the man lets his dog lick peanut butter off his tongue?
I don't see why not.
I mean, if you're really desperate to meet women and like having food eaten out of your mouth, I can set you up with my mom.
Why is that funny? That's just unhygienic.
It's a joke.
I don't think so. I believe that a joke is a brief oral narrative with a climactic humorous twist. For example, Wallowitz's mother is so fat that she decided to go on a diet or exercise or both. You see, the twist is that people don't usually change. Well, they don't.
You might be thinking, oh my gosh, if my child can't tell jokes and doesn't understand jokes, how am I going to help him? Thank God for apps, okay? There's an app for everything. So here's an app that you guys might want to look at. It's called the Joke Telling Social Story and Speech Tool. And the last I looked, it was $2.99. But you know how these prices always change, so I can't be held accountable for the fact that it changes, if it does. But this app uses stories that will contain jokes, and it describes how people tell jokes and why. And there are 9 jokes in this app with illustrations, and it's available for the Apple phones and devices as well as Android devices. So here is an example of one of the jokes that they have. Knock, knock. Who's there? I might say gorilla, and the other person will say, gorilla who? Gorilla me a cheese sandwich, please. Ha, 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 ha. It's funny, it's a joke, right? The other area of difficulty that kids have with non-literal language is idioms. Okay, and so an idiom is a word or a phrase that's not taken literally. And so if someone says, oh, I'm a little hoarse today, they don't mean that they're a pony. It means that they might have a scratchy voice, right? So that's an idiom there. How do you teach idioms? There's a website called Idioms by Kids, and it's idiomsbykids.com. And if you go on there, they have pictures of literal meanings drawn by kids, but of course that's not what an idiom is. It's not the literal meaning, but they have those drawings so that your kids can look at it and then understand that it's not that. But then there are stories that use those idiomatic expressions, and so your kid can start to learn these idioms, right? There are also books on the market that teach idioms. I'm just going to show some of them to you guys. There's one called There's a Frog in My Throat. It's by Lorene Leedy. There are 440 idioms in this book, and they're all centered around animals, like cat got your tongue, or let the cat out of the bag, you know, all of these idioms that have animals in them. And the level is about 2nd grade to 6th grade. Another book is The World is Your Oyster. And those are kind of like inspirational phrases that we use. So this book includes a lot of inspirational idioms, the common ones that are used for 1st grade and up. Another book is In a Pickle and Other Funny Idioms. And there are 30 idioms in this book that are comically explained. Level is 1st grade to 5th grade. Mad as a Wet Hen and Other Funny Idioms is for 3rd grade to 6th grade, and there are 136 idioms. And the interesting about this one is that they give the historic origin of some of these idioms. And you know, kids on the spectrum love facts. They love that kind of information. And so if you tell them, well, this particular idiom came from this origin, they might be more apt to, you know, remember it. More books. Birds of a Feather. It's a book of idioms and silly pictures, spelled pictures wrong, sorry. There are common idioms explained for kindergarten to 3rd grade level. And another book is called Raining Cats and Dogs, a collection of irresistible idioms and illustrations to tickle the funny bones of young people, by Will Moses. Common idioms for first grade to fifth grade. More books. Butterflies in My Stomach. You guys can read that in the handout. You Are What You Eat. So just other books with idioms. Okay, another thing that you guys can do as parents is facilitate peer mediation. What is peer mediation? Peer mediation is having a peer that is more typically developing as far as social skills, and get that kid to interact with your kid. So maybe you want to set up like a play date, and get the typically developing peer to interact with your child so that your child can have opportunities to practice those skills that you have been teaching them. The thing about peer mediation is that you don't want to use the peer as a teacher. Right? That's not the function of the peer. The peer is just there to kind of provide some modeling and be a way for your child to be able to practice. Because, you know, a lot of times kids can practice with us and do really well. And then they get out there with other kids and they fail. One reason is us as adults, we tend to scaffold and we try to facilitate and we're very understanding and we model and we do all those things, but will the peer do that? No. So we kind of like throw our kids to the wolves and say, all right, you know, go out there and interact with this kid, use all those skills that we taught you, but that person's not going to mediate for you. All right. The thing about these play dates or these peer mediation situations is you want to prepare your child and the other child. Let's say that you want to invite the other child to come to your house and you're going to have them play Uno or something. Well, you know, you're going to have to teach your kid how to play Uno, first of all. And then you also want to prepare the other kid and say, okay, you know what, you're coming over to our house, but I want you to know that, you know, Johnny has some difficulty sometimes recognizing facial expressions. So I just want you to know that. So that you prepare the other peer so that they know and they're not just thrown in there cold and not knowing what to expect. And again, make it really natural. You just want them to interact and play as naturally as possible, because the more real life like it is, the more apt they are to generalize. If it's very structured and very like sterile and not real and rigid, then it's not going to be relatable. They're not going to really understand how to generalize those skills. Now I'm going to talk about social stories. Some of you that were here early and looked at some of these books that I have up here, some of them are social stories. So what are social stories? Social stories, according to Carol Gray, who was the person who kind of started the whole methodology of using social stories, defines them as an evidence-based practice. They are patient descriptions of life's many topics and frequently include information that you and I take for granted, information that we may mistakenly assume that everyone knows. Okay, you've been there before, where you expect other people to kind of know. We go through life having lots of expectations of our other human beings. When we're driving down the street, we expect them to follow in their lane. We expect them to stop when it's a red light. We expect a lot of things. We expect that when you say hi to someone, they say hi back. We expect that when you smile at someone, they'll smile back at you. All these expectations that we just assume that everyone does. But kids on the autism spectrum don't do many of these things that we expect. And so these social stories take those skills and break them down into these stories that really target these skills very specifically. So where can you get some of these social stories? There's a website called Teachers Pay Teachers. Those of you who are teachers are familiar with it. All the things on this website are created by teachers, and then they sell them. and they're really reasonably priced. So if you go onto the Teachers Pay Teachers website and search social stories, there are many of them that are pretty affordable, like under $5. And you can print them out and then use them with your child. Here's an example of one of the social stories that I got off of Teachers Pay Teachers. It's called No Hitting, and it's made by Autism, and it cost me $4.50 to download. And then once I downloaded it, I printed it, so now I have it. And so here's the cover, and then the first page talks about sometimes we get angry, especially when things go wrong or you're not allowed to do the things you want. It could be that you get mad when you're told to do something you don't want to do. And so it's got some pictures. And then the next page says, any of these things can help you follow the being kind rules that all your teachers like to see. So it's telling you to think, count, and then communicate. And then it says, remember, no hitting. Keep hands and feet to yourself, no yelling, work quietly, raise your hand. Really simple, but very, very explicit, telling your child how to behave, not to hit when they're upset. Right? There are a lot of books out in the market that teach social skills that aren't marketed as social stories, but they do talk about things that kids encounter in everyday life that might be construed as a social situation. If you go to the starspangledplanner.com, using read-alongs to build community, they've listed 10 books that build social skills. So I would recommend going on that website. They include books written by Julia Cook, whom I really like. I have lots of Julia Cook books, not cookbooks, but Julia Cook books. She talks about all kinds of different skills, including like being a tattletale or saying things that you shouldn't say. It's called My Mouth Was a Volcano. Talking about making friends, talking about first day anxiety at school. She covers a lot of topics. So if you just type in your Google search or go onto Amazon and type in Julia Cook, you'll find a lot of books, and they're great. You could also look on cleverclassroomblog.com, and they list 30 books that teach social skills for the classroom and beyond. So lots of different books, and if your kid likes books, this is a great way to go. But if you want to make your own, if you don't really want to buy books written by other people and you want to make your own, especially because then you can make it more personal, more specific to a situation that happened with your child, you can do some of these apps that I'm going to show you. Again, there's an app for everything. Okay, this app is called Story Maker for Social Stories. It's kind of pricey, $39.99. It's available on the App Store, and you get to create social stories with pictures and text. The thing about it is that I really like, and it's worth the $39.99, is you can access Carol Gray's stories. So remember, Carol Gray was the one who started this whole social stories methodology. So, you might not know how to make a social story yet, and you think, well, I really want to get a social story done by the expert. That's her. All right, so this would be a good app for that. So that's Carol Gray. Another app that you can check out is Social Story Creator and Library. It's free, but you're limited to the bells and whistles. If you pay an extra, what did I say it wasn't? $14.99 to get the Social Stories Pro, but if you upgrade for $24.99, you get all the stories and all the bells and whistles. So depending on what you want to spend, your budget, and what you are looking for, this might be a good app for you. If you just want to buy individual stories that they have, they cost from $2.99 to $3.99. So not expensive. You think about going to the bookstore and buying a book. $2.99 is not very expensive. So you can use your own pictures. You can use pictures that they have. You can add your own voice to it. So it's, you can really personalize it. It's pretty great. And I just want to show you what some of the screens look like. So that's a screen that shows you like the choices that you have, and it tells you can add audio and do some images there, and you can access their library if you want. And then you can share your stories with other people. So let's say you're in a circle of parents that you guys all have kids on the autism spectrum, and you made a story and you want to share it with the other person, or the other person said, well, I just made my own story. Oh, share it with me. So you can access each other's stories on here. Stories About Me is another app that you can use. This one's a little bit different. It creates a storybook that looks different from the others. I'll show you in a minute. It's supposedly only available on the App Store. You can blend photos and text and voice into a talking picture book. It's $4.99 extra to unlock the other stories that other people have. But this is what it looks like, the finished product. Okay, another thing that you can do with your child is use comic strips or comic books. That seems to be the new thing these days. All the kids are reading manga, and in school they're using graphic novels. So this seems to be something that the kids are gravitating towards. If you're new to comic strips, you can access some online. You go to, you type in Show Me and comic strip convo, and there are a whole bunch of different types of conversations that people have created on the Show Me app. And I'll show you a little bit about the Show Me app in a minute. But this is a conversation about complimenting. When you guys, I think that Mike is going to upload the slides on our website, and it'll have the links. So for some reason, this particular slide is not linking to the link, but if you guys download or go to the website and look at the slides there, you can see the link, and you can go to the link to see what a Show Me conversation will look like. It will be like this, but then it'll also have the voice, so you can hear the person modeling the comic strip conversation. So the first one was a compliment. This one's talking about your weekend. And there's a whole bunch of different ones, like just saying hello. Just go to the internet and just type in Show Me. All right. So Show Me is an interactive whiteboard. You can use it for a lot of different reasons. What would you use a whiteboard for? A lot of reasons. But what I'm promoting it for today is using it to create your own comic strips. It's, you can draw on it, you can choose colors, you can erase, you can add voice, and then you can share it with other people. So you can instantly create and record lessons, but for us, we're talking about, comic strip conversations. And you can just email it directly to someone. You can share it on Twitter or Facebook. I don't know if we're all using Facebook anymore, given what's going on. But anyhow, yeah, so that's Show Me. It's, I like it. I like this app. Michelle Garcia Winner and Pamela Crook have created this book called You Are a Social Detective. I have a copy of it up here if you want to take a look at it. It's great because it explains social thinking to kids. It's kind of like the first step to teaching about social thinking. It has explanations about the terminology that she uses, like, expected, unexpected, and all those words that she uses. She explains it. So it's a good first book to get if you're going to embark on the social thinking curriculum that Michelle Garcia uses. Here's an example of a page from that book. Just the kids are all doing something, and they're showing that sometimes when we're in a group, people are being unexpected. And that's just a page here that shows that. If you want to create your own comics beyond the Show Me app, and you want to make them really elaborate with fancy, what's the word I'm looking, making it look fancy. You could use the Comics Head app, and you get to create your own comic. The free version, as always, has limited features. You don't get all the bells and whistles, but if you pay $4.99, That's it. $4.99 is not a lot of money. You get more superheroes, more comics to access, and you can use their template, or you can upload your own comics and your own photos. And you can add your own voice into the story. Just to show you what it looks like. All right. Now, the other new thing that people are gravitating towards are superheroes. There are all those movies coming out with superheroes, and the kids love superheroes. Sometimes I give assignments to my clients, and it's superhero themed, and they gravitate towards. They love it. So what about superheroes? Well, number one, the research shows that the use of superheroes has proven useful. In the Journal of Autism and Developmental Disorders, this was in September 2015, they support the use of superheroes' social skills. So Michelle Garcia Winner, I talk about her a lot because she's the founder of social thinking. She's kind of like the pioneer who really talked about social thinking versus social skills. And she presents all over the world, and she has people teaching her curriculum in lots of schools and lots of programs, and I use her program a lot. I adapt some of the things. I've included my own, but for the most part, I use a lot of her things. And both our schools here at CHC use Michelle Garcia Winner things. So she has a program called Superflex. And I have some of the books up here if you want to look at them later. It's a social thinking curriculum. So it's not just one book, it's a whole bunch of books. And they all talk about superheroes. And she's got these bad guys called the unthinkables. And the unthinkables make you do things that are unexpected. They kind of get into your brain and make you inflexible in social situations. So some of the characters are called Glass Man, Rock Brain, Mean Gene, Brain Eater. I've got some handouts out here, not handouts, but some papers up here that you can look at that explain about some of the unthinkables. But one of them is Rock Brain, right? And Rock Brain gets you stuck on your own thoughts and answers and solutions. He gets you to only do what you want to do without thinking about the group. So once the kids have learned these terms about the unthinkables, and you catch them doing a rock brain because they're stuck on what they want and not wanting to do what other people do, you might say, I think you're being rock brain, or rock brain has gotten into your brain. And then they'll know. They'll go, ooh, I'm being rock brain. I'm being rigid about what I want and not what other people want. And so what do you do to defeat rock brain? You listen to your group's ideas to be flexible, and then you agree to follow someone else's plan. And there's a specific book, let's see, it's this one. And it's a story about Superflex, the hero, fighting rock brain. Looks like that. And here's a page from the book. Talking about Aiden and his mom, and he's frustrated because he's stuck on only wanting to eat chicken. And anyway, so rock brain took over, and the rest of the story talks about how he gets to defeat rock brain. All right. Another unthinkable is Glass Man, and Glass Man gets upset very quickly. The degree of the upset does not match the seriousness of the problem. And he usually thinks things are not fair. Okay, you've heard your kids say, not fair, okay? And they think that it's the end of the world when it's just something really small. And that's because glass man got into their brain. So what you need to do is say, you're being glass man, or glass man has gotten into your brain, so what can you do? All right, and so what do? You stop and think about the problem, and you tell yourself to take a break and walk away. You can ask for help, take a deep breath to calm down. Now today, during the day, I was over at Sand Hill, and sure enough, one of the kids had glass man. And so I had to go and intercede and say, okay, I need you to walk away, take a deep breath, calm down, and then we could help him. Right? So that's the book. And here's a page. It's just an example so you know what it looks like. Right? Michelle Garcia Winner decided that in order to get the kids to really learn these unthinkables, she created these cards. It's a card deck. And there are thinkables and unthinkables, and there are a bunch of cards. And what you could do with them is, play games with them. How many of you ever played headbands or heads up? You can do that. You can like stick it on your head, the card, and then have the kid talk about it so they can really get to know these unthinkables and be well versed in who these unthinkables are. You could play Go Fish, you can play I Spy, you can do a lot of things with these cards. So there are thinkables and unthinkables, and here are a bunch of them. Okay. I don't only talk about Michelle Garcia Winner. There's The Power of Words. It's a comic book, social story that's on Teachers Pay Teachers. You can search it up. It's put out by the Greenhouse Educators, and they teach kids to use their words to solve a problem. And so the superheroes encourage the kid when there's a problem to use their words. And The Power of Words. Okay, I mentioned graphic novels earlier. Graphic novels are really, really popular these days. Some of my high schoolers, instead of reading Beowulf, just the original text, they've got like a graphic novel version. There are graphic novel versions of almost everything. A lot of the Shakespeare books also are in graphic novel form. So graphic novels, if that's what your kid is into, that might be a way to teach them some social skills. This next one that I'm going to show you is for middle schoolers. So, sometimes these kids that are on the autism spectrum are not discovered until middle school. Like, all throughout elementary school, they seem to be doing fine. And you might think, oh, my child's a little bit quirky, but, I don't know that he's on the spectrum or he doesn't have a social communicative disorder. But maybe in middle school, it really shows up, and so then you want to get them more interested with materials that are more geared towards middle schoolers. So this is available on the iPad as well as in book form.
We're very different in lots of ways, but we're all good friends.
Meet Jack, Jen, Mateo, Abby, Chris, and Michelle. 6 teens trying to figure it all out in middle school. But that might be a lot easier said than done.
The Middle School Confidential series is here to help. Everyone makes mean comments about my weight. How rude is that? Very. I get teased too for being taller than most girls.
There's this one kid who always calls me El Shrimpo. He's so annoying.
I hear you, Matt. I know about 20 people like that.
It's hard getting used to life in a step family.
Should I have to change myself to be like?
When a guy gets a girlfriend, it can feel like he's got no time for his friends.
Find answers for these and other dilemmas in the Middle School Confidential series.
The thing I like about the one that talks about real friends or the other kind, a lot of kids on the autism spectrum really have a hard time differentiating who's a friend, and they get bullied because, or they get taken advantage of because they think that the other kid is trying to be their friend, and they don't understand that, no, they're actually being taken advantage of. So that book is a good one to teach kids about those fake friends. Michelle Garcia Winner, again, put out this book with Pamela Crook called Social Fortune or Social Fate. What I love about this book is that it's a two-sided book, kind of like you've got the social fortune on one side, and then you flip it over, and it's social fate. And social fortune will show the characters in the situation, and they responded in a way that was positive. They left feeling comfortable and good, and that's called social fortune. But if you flip the book over, it's the same character with the same situation, but they responded differently. And the way that they chose to respond left them feeling uncomfortable, and it wasn't a successful interaction. And so that's known as social fate. So it's a pretty cool book. Okay, what else can you do besides stories and books? You can also do videos. Again, our kids today are very visual, into videos, video games, videos, YouTubes. A lot of kids today want to grow up to be YouTubers because everybody's on YouTube. Okay, so we should take that advantage of that and use videos to teach. Anna Vagan has written a book called Movie Time Social Thinking. I have that up here if you want to look at it. She teaches how to use movies to teach social thinking. Some examples of books that she references are Frog Goes to Dinner, Knuffle Bunny, No Roses for Harry, The Indian in the Cupboard, Like Mike, Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, Aquila and the Bee. The thing, though, a few more, sorry. Finding Nemo, Pink Panther, and Shrek. The thing about the movies, though, is they take a long time. You don't just watch the movie, right? You watch it, you pause it, you talk about it, you freeze frame and say, let's look at Harry Potter's face. Okay, what do you think he's thinking? Why would Harry do that? What do you think he's going to do next? You know, all those things that you're constantly pausing, and sometimes the kids just get really frustrated and go, stop pushing the stop button. I just want to watch it. And so Anna Vagan realized, you know, not all the kids want to do, 8 sessions of watching the same movie. It takes too long. So then she wrote a book to use just like YouTube videos. They're shorter, and you can like cover them in a short period of time. So her book is called UQ Feelings, and she talks about how to use videos, particularly YouTube videos, to target social thinking. So in this particular book, she's got 25 pre-selected online video links and summaries. So the thing about using YouTube videos, I use them, I spend a lot of time like looking at a lot of videos and then deciding, is this expected to use with the kids? You know, you have to kind of look through them and make sure that there aren't any unexpected things in them. And then you have to watch it and know what it has in there so that you can pause at the right time and say, oh, let's look at this. And what do you think will happen next? And then you know what's going to happen next because you watched it already. So the thing about this is she has already previewed the videos and she's like talking about them for you. So it's good. She divides it up into the level 1 UQ activities, which are the younger kids who are not as mature in their social thinking. And then she has activities for the level 2 kids who are a little bit more mature in their social thinking. Some videos that I've previewed include this one for the birds. For the sake of time, I'm just going to show you a little bit of it and show you how I use them. So often, even before the video starts, I'll say, let's look at the title for the birds, and I get them to start thinking, what could this be about? What do you think that we will see? And then we look at the eyes. We look at, okay, what is that bird doing? He's yawning. What's going on? Oh, what are they doing now? They look like they're arguing. How do you know? Oh, they're fighting. Oh, more birds are coming. What do you think's going to happen? Oh my gosh, they're all fighting. Look at them. Look at their eyes. They look angry because you see the eyebrows kind of going down. Oh, okay, now all their eyes are big. Oh, they see this other bird. Look at them. Okay, what do you think they're thinking? This bird is saying hi, and then look at their eyes. What are they thinking? Okay, so they're making fun of him. How do you know? They're laughing at him. Why would they do that? Oh, because he's different. And does this bird realize he's being made fun of? No, he wants to be friends, so he's going to come over. But look, all the birds are walking away. They don't want to be near him. So, you're just kind of commenting, pointing out things for them to look at, so that they can start to understand social thinking. And then here comes this bird, and oh my goodness, can you predict what will happen? And okay, so look, he's really heavy. Look at how those other birds, how are they feeling? What might they be saying? Does the big bird realize that they're angry with him? No, he looks pretty happy. Oh dear, big bullies, all right. Oh, look at their eyes. See how they're all crossed in and narrowed? They're being mean. They're not nice. Oh, now that look that they shared meant that they were up to something no good, right? And oh, can you guys predict what might happen? They're trying to get him to get off of the wire, but oh dear. Yeah, okay, now one of them is starting to realize, look at his eyes. He's saying to the other ones, oh dear, look. Oh, no, we better stop. Hey, stop. Well, oh gosh. Yeah, so now they all went flying up. This bird is here going, wonder what happened. Then he's looking up and he sees the other birds. They're falling down and their feathers all fell out and he's laughing. Oh, and look at his face. He's embarrassed. Okay, and then all the birds fly down and oh dear. Now, the big bird gets to laugh at them. Right. This is another video that I like to use. We're not going to watch it because we don't have time, but it's also a great one that talks about being accepting of other people who are different. This I love. This would be for older kids. It's about this old lady and her robot, and it's really touching, and every time I watch it, I cry. I swear to you, I cry. And so you don't really want to show it to the younger kids because they won't get it. But older kids, I've shown it to them, and the kids watch me cry, and they love it. They go, ha, ha, she's crying. And then I'll say, well, why am I crying? And so I get them to engage in some social thinking and identifying feelings and things like that. There are companies that sell social skills videos. They're not cheap, but if you really want to go that route, this is available. This company is called Everyday Speech Social Skills Videos. Just going to show you what they're about.
There are some things that we shouldn't say out loud. We all have thoughts about other people. These may be good thoughts or not so good. If we have thoughts about other people that aren't so good, we should keep them in our head. If we say all of our thoughts out loud, it can hurt people's feelings. When we have thoughts about other people, we need to stop and think. Should I think it or should I say it?
So that goes in line with
Your birthday this weekend
the
was
thought bubble,
awesome.
right?
Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but I got you a gift. Ugh, I don't even like this color. I don't want it.
Look at the girl in the middle.
What happened there? Let's see what Alessandra is thinking.
I hate the color. Why did she get me that?
Alessandra is upset. When she got a present she didn't like, she yelled at Serena and gave the present back. How do you think that made Serena feel? Let's see what the girls are thinking.
That was so mean. Serena did something nice for Alessandra by getting her a gift. I can't believe she yelled at me like that. She really hurt my feelings. I don't want to hang out with her anymore.
Serena feels hurt. The girls don't understand why Alessandra told Serena she didn't like the present. Alessandra had a thought that could hurt someone. Remember, if our thoughts are going to hurt someone, we should keep these thoughts inside. When someone gives you a gift, always say thank you. You might not really like it, but telling someone you don't like their gift will hurt their feelings. Let's watch Alessandra try again.
Your birthday party this weekend was awesome. Yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't make it, but I got you a present. I don't really like this shirt. Should I thank it or say it? This will hurt Serena's feelings. I'll keep this thought inside. Thanks, Serena. I really appreciate it. Hope you can come next time. You're welcome.
That time, Alessandra kept her thoughts inside. If you're having thoughts that might hurt someone's feelings, it's important to stop and think. Should I think it or should I say it?
So that's just one example of the many videos that they have. You can do a free 30-day trial, but the subscription is $9.99 a month, and it's $99.99 per year. They cover things like nonverbal communication, conversation skills, friendship skills, problem solving, and school behavior. There's another company that does social skills video called Social Skills. Actually, it's TD Social Skills. They have different categories of videos. One is fitting in and having fun. Another one is moving on to middle school, confident and in control, and high school life, unspoken expectations. So this would be good for the older kids. And it's $29.95 per DVD, and the videos can be viewed on YouTube.
To have a conversation, not only do you have to get someone's attention, but you also have to take turns speaking and listening. Let's see what happens in a conversation between Sam and Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan, I got a puppy yesterday. His name's Max. He's a standard poodle, and he's really cute.
Oh, I have a dog too. His name's Cecil, and we take him for walks and stuff.
Yeah,
Oh, and Cecil? Yeah, he goes up to my bed to go to sleep.
Yeah, and he
Oh, my dog's really cool because we like take him for walks and we run with him.
Let's see what everyone's thinking.
keeps interrupting me. He won't let me tell him about my dog.
I want to tell Sam all about my dog.
He doesn't give me a chance to talk.
People will only want to talk to you if you stop and listen to what they have to say too. If you don't, the friend will probably get frustrated and walk away. Let's see what Jonathan could have done differently to get a better outcome.
Hey Jonathan, I got a dog yesterday. His name's Max, and he's a standard poodle, and he's really cute.
Oh, I have a dog too. His name is Cecil.
Yeah, that's cool. My dog, he can do like tricks. I take him outside and I play with him.
I really want to tell Sam about my dog, but he really wants to tell me about his dog. We should probably take turns. Yeah, I taught him up and lay down.
I taught him sit and lay down, and I taught him how to roll over and fetch.
Oh, you taught him a lot. Maybe our dogs should meet up sometime.
Oh, that's cool.
You need to take turns speaking and listening while having a conversation. If you cut friends off and don't let them join the conversation, you are not having a conversation. You are lecturing them. People will only want to talk to you if you stop and listen to what they have to say too. Classmates like to be friends with children who take turns speaking while having a conversation.
There's another site called Model Me Kids, and again, they've got videos for you to download. They talk about conversations, bullying, friendships. It's geared for ages 2 to 21, so you can check that out on your own. I'm just going to move ahead because I want to have time for questions. There's also Wonder Grove Kids. And this is kind of fun for the younger kids. So I'm just going to show this to you real quick.
Hi, I'm Marcus, and I'm here to tell you about the Wonder Grove Kids educational website. WonderGroveKids.com uses animated characters, like me, to connect with children and teach them valuable life lessons. I also star in episodes of Wonder Grove, and I will be the science expert for children ages 3 to 8. WonderGroveKids.com is an education website that features over 100 instructional animations that will help kids like me succeed, both inside and outside of school, because they cover 8 critical areas of learning, like social skills.
Then he laughed at me in front of everyone. That kid was being a bully, but no one should be bullied. You should tell an adult. You're right.
Life skills.
So, even if you've got all these great ideas and you go home and you try to implement them, doesn't necessarily mean that your child would, be as excited as you. There are some, there are some obstacles that can get in the way of success. Right? Low dose. Okay, what does that mean? Low dose means not a lot of opportunity to practice all at once. It's kind of like taking a dose of medicine. Low dose is like not a lot. High dose is a lot. So when you practice a skill, a new skill with your child, you want to give them high dose. Don't do low dose, because low dose is kind of like when you want to learn how to play tennis and you just go and practice maybe once every 3 weeks. Are you going to get better? Not likely. But if you practice a lot, really frequently, you're going to get that muscle memory and you're going to get better. So low dose is definitely an obstacle to good success. Also, if you have artificial and unvaried settings, Tina mentioned earlier that you want to generalize to a lot of different settings. Again, who cares if they could do it one-on-one with you? If they've got like the green lights and the red lights down and they understand about, Glass Man and Rock Brain. But if they can't carry it out in other settings, then they're not successful. So when you teach the skills, you want to take your child out to a lot of different places. Otherwise, it's not going to carry over. So, we realized that back in the day when we were doing skill building with kids just in the privacy of my own office. It's just me and the kid. And then the parents will say, Johnny still has trouble with conversations. I go, no, he does really great with me. Okay, doesn't matter that they can do it with me. Varied settings, definitely important. Again, if you are limited in the opportunities for generalization, then you're not going to get a lot of good success. So peer mediation, having play dates, taking them to other places where they can practice the skill and generalize, that is really good. And then this is not something we can really help the kids with if they don't have motivation. With the younger ones, you can bribe them. Say, oh, if you do this, you might get ice cream, stuff like that. When they get older and you get into middle school and high school, a lot of them, aren't interested. And so you're going to have to figure out how to be creative to motivate them. I had some kids that came in and said, oh, I don't want to do that. I've been there, done that, doesn't work. And I say, oh, and it's a teenage boy, do you like girls? Oh, yes. Well, girls like it if, boys know how to have conversations. Oh, really? And then all of a sudden they're motivated. So you find out what, they're motivated by, and then you use that, dangle it in front of them. If they like video games, you might say, like that girl across the street likes video games, or even like if they're not interested in dating, but they want to play video games, and a lot of times they go on online chats, you're going to say, well, that's social. You know, you're going to have to like be able to have conversations with these people, even if it's not face to face. You're chatting. You have to know some social rules. So you want to just kind of figure out what motivates them and then do it. All right. Any questions? Yes.
Yes, I'm a parent of a boy who will turn 3 years old very soon. So a lot of this I can't practice it with him because he's also non-verbal yet. He's on speech therapy. So what can I do? Like, you know, more in a nutshell.
So your child is 3 and he's nonverbal. Almost 3 and he's nonverbal. He's not verbal yet. Okay, and he's getting speech therapy now. And what are they doing in speech therapy?
She wanted to know in a nutshell what she can do given that he's just turning 3 and he's nonverbal.
So has he been diagnosed with anything other than a language delay?
Yes, ASD. But my question is, what can I do regarding social skills?
Yeah.
Because he's not going to engage with a lot of these skills, techniques, which are amazing, but he's not even 3 years old. So what can I do to start?
Yeah. So
sorry, one more thing.
Oh.
For example, today he pushed a boy through the stairs in a playground, and there was a big drama in the playground. I don't even want to go back to the playground. So
Okay, so for those of you in the back that didn't hear, her son was at the playground today and pushed another boy, and there was this altercation, and she's embarrassed. Down the stairs. Oh, goodness. Okay. Yeah, so you can start talking about expected and unexpected. You can do a version of the social behavior map, which was... Yeah, and you, instead of using the words that are on here, you can draw pictures and say, okay, where we were on the playground and you pushed the boy. How did the boy feel? He probably didn't like it. What did he do because of how he felt? Did he try to kick your son, or what did the boy do that got...
scratch him.
Yeah, so he scratched. Yeah, so he scratched you. How did that make you feel? You didn't like that. Let's go back through this scenario and let's talk about expected behaviors. Okay, so let's say that, you know, the boy was in your space, you didn't like it, so rather than pushing him, you walked away. All right, how would the other boy feel? Don't feel anything. He might just want to play with you. So then how does that make you feel? Happy. All right, so I would suggest something like, very simple. And then again, as you interact with your son, point out things that you're doing. Oh, look at me, I'm looking at you. That means I'm thinking about you. I like that you're looking at me. That means you're thinking about me. So, you know, do a lot of that modeling stuff and pointing out and acknowledging things that he's doing. Okay, you're welcome. Yes.
Hi, my son is 15, and he's not had any speech language pathology. Well, he had one when he was really young, but it didn't. He probably first or second grade, and didn't help in any way. So we stopped. And since then, he hasn't had any speech language, any intervention. I think I picked up a lot of strategies here today that I could use with him. So thank you for that. My question is to do with empathy. He has no empathy at all. What can we do? Can you give some pointers? Thank you.
I've had lots of kids like that I worked with. Does your son like books? Does he like does he like videos? Okay, I would use videos, and we would watch them, and then point out so-and-so, especially that changing batteries video that I said I cried every time. You know, a video like that, watch it and then point out. So he might not feel these feelings, and he might not understand what they feel like. But if you point them out that other people are feeling this way, then he might start to identify, in situations like this, I need to feel this way. He might not immediately know how to feel that way, but as you start to expose him more and more to those kinds of things, he'll start to understand it intellectually and then eventually internalize it. He may never get to the point where he'll feel it the way we do, but at least he'll understand socially what is acceptable, what is the expected way to feel. So like if he hears that somebody's grandmother died, you know, he'll know, oh, I'm supposed to feel sad, and then act sad even if he doesn't feel it. Does that make sense? Okay. Yes, we'll take one more, and then the rest of you can go, and if any of you still have questions, I'm happy to stay.
Okay, so I also have a teenager son, and he does speech, but I think when they give him the rules, like when you say conversation, you hot potato, you pass them back and forth, he took it literally. So I say if we have a conversation, I say, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. He thinks I'm interrupting him. He gets mad. You can't make any comment when, you know, you're talking. He's like, no, you're interrupting me. So it's like, what do you do? It's like too literal.
Yeah, so like we talked about earlier, where you want to start to teach them social thinking rather than rules. So if you do interrupt and he thinks that that's violating a rule, then you say, the reason that I interrupt, explain to him the social thinking behind it. I'm showing you empathy, I'm identifying your emotion, and I'm mirroring it. All right, and so if you explain to him and get him to engage in social thinking, then he'll be more apt to accept what you do that might seem to be a violation of a social rule. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Thank you.